do that to
Yeah.
yourself.
Well, of
But
course. That's one of those transfers that, like, if you've ever played FIFA manager mode,
yep,
there's those transfers that happen in every save you do.
just make no
Pulisic to
sense.
Tottenham has happened in every save I've done for the past like 3 or 4 years. I don't know why, but it happens.
Yeah, no, you're right. Or the classic David Alaba always went to Juventus, I think. From Bayern,
Yes.
like no matter where you started, David Alaba in the first season
Yeah.
always went to Juventus, and then I think he
Yeah.
eventually went to Juventus, and like everyone like was screaming that this was like the coolest
Mm.
thing because it finally came full circle. But yeah, no, Christian
Mm.
Pulisic, who obviously has played in the Premier League a couple or handful of years ago, which by the way, COVID Christian Pulisic will never be forgotten. This COVID
Yeah.
Christian Pulisic might
100%.
be the greatest soccer player I've ever seen in my life. Better than Prime Messi,
Yeah.
Prime Ronaldo.
That's what I was going to say is my whole theory for why Chris didn't quote unquote work at Chelsea is purely because of the pandemic. If you look at Pulisic's, I mean, like you said, if you were watching the games, if you just look at Chris's stats while he's at Chelsea, while he is healthy, he's he's like one of the best league wingers in the Prem at the time. The thing is with Chris is that I think he's still at Chelsea if what he did during the pandemic happened in front of fans. If you think about it, he has that great goal against Man City that won them that
Yep.
game. He has the goal against Real Madrid and the assist for the goal that put them into the Champions League final. And so, he had that incredible run all behind closed doors and stuff. And, when you look at Chris is such a passionate player, that's why he loves AC Milan, is because Milanistas are psychopaths and stuff.
Mob.
And so, getting that big roar of the, yeah, you know what I mean? And so for him to have his biggest moments in front of the stewards and no one, basically, he didn't get that face-to-face thing that, like, when you look at Chelsea, when they came back from behind against West Ham and Trevor Chalobah is, grabbing the fans who are, hopping the barrier to celebrate with him. He never got that, So by the time the fans do come back, they're basically like, well, where's the world-class player, And obviously he has that burden of being one of those great, it's the heavy is the crown of the player who is the best player in the history of his federation. You know what I mean? That there's always those random international teams that we've seen for years where, it's like Hagi, or I forget how you say his name, the Romanian dude in the 90s, where it's like, all right, you got a bunch of dudes who are, professionals, but then there's like one guy who could pretty much start on any squad. And so, Liverpool, I think, is when we think about like the teams that he has been linked to, personally, I think Liverpool's probably the best move for him. Just purely from playing style, I think it would depend on whether or not Mo would leave in the summer. Because obviously I think that would be its own set of pressure to be like, oh, is Pulisic the Mo replacement?
Yeah.
The thing that I think would work the most with Liverpool is Liverpool over the past few years, obviously they've struggled while they're in sixth place, like 2 points out of Champions League. But it's their ability to plug and play players. Wirtz has been a little hard just because it's so hard to transition from Bundesliga to Premier League. We've seen this now pretty much with every player except, yeah, exactly. Pretty much everyone except for Erling Haaland, has struggled coming from the Bundesliga to the Prem. And, we all knew.
Leroy Sané.
That's still good. What's up?
Leroy Sané was good. He came over from Schalke. He was really
exactly.
good.
Yes, he was an excellent player. Yes, there are few, but yeah, they're few and far between, because, I mean, for every Sané or Haaland, there's like 3 Timo Werners and, there's shout out Earthquakes.
Play out of Fortnite.
Yeah, exactly. But, it's hard. It's really. Oh, go ahead.
I think that Pulisic, he gets injured a lot. I feel like the Prem's a little bit too physical for him. I do. And, he gets injured quite a bit, whether that's for the US or whether that's for AC Milan.
Yeah.
I don't quite remember his Chelsea injury record, but
it was bad. There was a lot of it. There was a lot.
He's just like a scrawny player, and there's a lot of scrawny players around the world for sure. And obviously, you kind of, trump that a little bit with, his quickness and his speed. And Pulisic's an unbelievable player. But I think that him being at AC Milan is the best spot for him because he's one of the best players in the league. And I know people are like, well, that's not a good thing because that Pulisic's the best player in your league. Well, I mean, is Lautaro Martinez really a good, standard for best player in the league? No, I don't think so either. So, like, those two are the best players in the league, and everyone's kind of saying, Serie A has fallen off. Well, when you have Juventus, who had all their scandals and all their whatever allegations going on, and they were constantly competing for Champions Leagues with Tevez, Pogba. Man, they had a squad back in the day. Chiellini, Bonucci, Arturo Vidal,
made the final.
Buffon, unbelievable squad. And then AC Milan and Inter Milan's back in the day as well. But I think Pulisic should ultimately stay. And I know his whole contract, what's kind of been the roadblock is he said back in the fall, is he wants the guarantee of playing in Champions League. Well, the only team out of those three that's really going to be guaranteed Champions League at this moment in time and probably
Arsenal.
at the end of the season is Arsenal. And I'm looking at Arsenal, I'm like, they have to sell a winger or two. You sell a Jesus. You sell a Martinelli. And I think Jesus is ultimately out at the end of the season. Maybe Martinelli, which there should be a study about Martinelli in the Premier League versus a cup game because, like, he turns into Brazilian Ronaldo in cup games, and then he looks like Marwan Shemak in Premier League games. Makes no sense about how the difference is. And then I don't even think he starts over at Trossard based on what Trossard's doing this season. Like, he's unbelievable, and Arteta's kind of like he's very set in his ways type of a manager where, Eze, who I thought was going to play so much this year, doesn't, see the field as much as I would like or thought he would. So I just think Pulisic should ultimately stay at AC Milan, and that's why I think Weston McKennie, if he's given the chance, should stay at Juventus because look what he's doing at Juventus. He's an unbelievable player, arguably one of the best players in Juventus.
I agree. The funny thing with Weston is Weston has this more like doom cycle in Juve, which is basically he has to play himself into the squad every time they get a manager. How many times over the past the entire time he's been at Juventus, it's basically been like the new manager's like, find a new club. And then he scores some crazy header in the Champions League. And then exactly. And then he's back in the squad immediately. And so, I mean, Champions League minutes are hard to come by, especially if you are, if you're someone like Weston who could play in the Premier League, or you can just play for Juventus, who's a big club. Once again, too, we have to remind ourselves, these are young dudes. And so, like, do you want to go live in Brighton in England, or do you want to go live in Turin in Italy? There's Juventus and Milan are incredibly historic clubs. When you get signed to AC Milan, it's not just, people don't realize that it's not just you signing for the club. AC Milan is signed with Dolce & Gabbana. So when you sign with AC Milan, you're getting a tailored suit. They're sponsored by Audi, so they're giving you like a really fancy car. I know there's sponsorships for every team. Yeah. But I'm just saying, for Milan is one of the, like, let's not forget, AC Milan has 7 Champions Leagues, and
it's an historic club.
Exactly. And so in an incredible city with that's fashion forward, and it's a cool city to live in.
Guy.
Exactly. He's a cool looking dude. And so I can totally understand where if you're 27 or whatever, why you would want to live there as opposed to going from Milan to Liverpool, just from a lifestyle standpoint. So it's a little different, but I can understand if you're Pulisic that you want to have regular Champions League, you want to have steady trophies. Of course, though, AC Milan has lost once this year. They're 14-8-1. They're barely behind Inter in Serie A. So like you said, it's not like, Milan is the struggling Milan that they were over the past 10 years. Milan has opened up the checkbook more than they have. Milan is the most notorious team for just being cheapskates and stuff, where like AC Milan and Chelsea have done a lot of dealings with each other over the past decade or so. And every time it's just like, we'll give you $3 million for Tammy Abraham. And then like, I'm not kidding. what I found what Milan will do, and I've learned this just from my buddy over the years. With Milan, will be like, all right, we're not paying 20 for Aunt Tammy. We're gonna pay 10, and then they're like, okay, we'll do 10. And then they're like, okay, we're gonna do a payment plan, and so then they're gonna do like 2 million for 5 years, and then after 1 year, they're like, we're not gonna pay the 10 million. All right, you got 2, how's 5? And that's
It's weird
that
how some
seems
of
to be the
those
Milan.
money moves go down. I remember
Oh yeah,
Juan Cuadrado is
Italians.
another player that was constantly bouncing back and
Yes.
forth with
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea and then Juventus, and he
Yep.
was all over the place. Sometimes I felt like Jose just bought him to buy him because, like, why not?
Well, that is such an interesting Chelsea squad. That about 2014, 2015 squad, because you look at that. Basically, there's Diego Costa, there's Cesc Fabregas, there's Eden Hazard, there's Willian.
Has
On the
been so
bench is
good.
Mo Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, and Juan Cuadrado. There's a great interview. John Obi Mikel had Jose on his podcast probably about a year ago. If y'all haven't listened to the Jose Mourinho, John Obi Mikel podcast, listen to it. It's freaking hilarious. But he talks about that where he's like, because everyone always is like, oh, this is and people are like, oh my god, you guys sold sold Salah and De Bruyne. It's like, we won the league that year, like definitively, and made it to this, like barely lost to Atletico Madrid in the semifinals. But it's like, oh yeah, you know why we sold Mo Salah? It's because Eden Hazard and Willian were ahead of him, and they
They're
were doing
unbelievable.
just fine. Yeah, yeah, and like the best Mourinho quote is he goes, first game of season, I sub on Kevin De Bruyne in 60th minute for Frank Lampard. After game, Kevin De Bruyne look at me and says, I want to leave. What do you want me to do? Because it makes sense where it's like Kevin De Bruyne at that. Thank you. It's from like 22, he's like 22, 23 at that point. And so I totally understand why, we did that with everybody like Oriol Romeo is still playing in La Liga. Like there's so many of those like Chelsea youth people that we basically just bought because of financial fair play in the early 2000s that, they were, I remember Marco Marin, who was supposed to be the German Messi. There's all these like random little dudes and stuff. So yeah, I mean, to be fair, I loved when Mo Salah because he was on Basel. Chelsea was that classic thing of we won the Champions League in 2012, and then the year after we get bounced in the group stages. We don't even make it out because remember we were the first team to win Champions League and Europa League back to back. But the reason we won Europa League is because we came in third place in our group, which back when there was group stages, whatever. But the two teams that we lost to in the group stages were FC Basel. Mo Salah scored in that game, and Shakhtar, who had Willian, and he scored on us. And so that was a very fun time. But we're just buying all these young players and stuff where it's like, oh, Eden Hazard, for like 40 or 50 million. People don't realize too in that window that Chelsea has that sneaky. They buy Cesar Azpilicueta for 8 million for Marseille, and to get your club captain for 8 million, and for what, 2 Prems and a Champions League and a bunch of other trophies. It's not too bad. I'm just kind of going on my Chelsea youth thing. But
fine.
Yeah, just the point I was making is people always give that Chelsea squad a bunch of crap for being like, oh, they sold all their great young players. It's like, because they were the best team in England by far at that time. Like,
there's a lot of top team rejects. I mean, look at Cole Palmer from Man City. He was a Man City reject.
Exactly.
And we're going to look back in like 5 years and we're going to see, wow, Man City let him go, him go. So, no.
Exactly.
Honestly, if you're a big club, it's a good thing that you lose a top prospect or so once or twice to turn into superstars because it shows how good your academy was at the time. We're going to step aside for a moment. We'll talk. We can talk a little MASL. Maybe we can talk a little Chelsea.